Hello, and welcome back to Attack on Titan Enthusiasts. The anime has some original foreshadowing that was not shown in the manga. There are also hints left in the theme songs that point to future events that are a topic of conversation among fans. And there's even a possibility that the last episode of the anime will have a different ending from the manga. So, in this video, we'll discuss the foreshadowing that's available only in the anime. Please be aware, this video contains spoilers up to the final chapter of the manga. Differences between the first chapter of the manga and the first episode of the anime. One of the biggest differences is the dream that Eren has while sleeping in the first chapter of the manga. In the manga, Mikasa from the future tells him, "See you later, Eren." Eren wakes up from this dream and bursts into tears. This scene is connected to the scene in chapter 138, where Eren and Mikasa are living together in a different world where they don't activate the rumbling. In the manga, this was a very important scene, foreshadowing what happens in chapter 138, but it didn't appear in the first episode of the anime. Until recently, we thought that it had just been cut out completely, but it shows up in the beginning of the recently released first half of the final season, part 3. Also, in the dream that Eren has instead of this one in episode 1, instead of seeing Mikasa, he sees his mother Carla being eaten by titans. Compared to the manga, we can clearly see why Eren is crying. Eren's tears in the beginning of the manga and the beginning of the anime have different meanings, but one thing they both have in common is he's crying because of the influence of the power of the founding titan. So, it's unlikely that the ending will change significantly, but it's possible we'll see things develop differently in the anime than they did in the manga. We find out in the last chapter of the manga that Carla was eaten by a titan because of Eren from the future. That scene might connect some way back to the first episode of the anime. The scene in chapter 138 where Eren and Mikasa are living together might even be cut. Even if it is, I'm sure we all can't wait to see how the anime ends. Future Eren possibly appearing in episode 2. In chapters 120 and 121 of the manga, Eren and his brother Zeke show the story of Eren's journey through his father Grisha's past, through the power of the founding titan. In these chapters, we learn that the Attack Titan has the ability to see the memories of its future inheritors, and also that Grisha loved Zeke. It turns out that the second episode of the anime may have been foreshadowing what happens in chapter 120 of the manga. If you check the scene in episode 2 of the anime where Eren, Mikasa, and Armin come together, you'll see that a man can be seen leaning against a wall a short distance away from the three of them. If we check the clothing of this man, it greatly resembles Eren's clothing from chapter 120 of the manga. This man in the background, with his face obscured, might have been Eren from the future. Eren and Zeke were together though, and since Zeke's not shown in the anime here, we can't be certain that this man is Eren from the future. These were also things that took place after Eren's father had already died. Still, it's clear that only that man stands out in this scene's background, which makes us think that it has to have some kind of meaning. If he was foreshadowing future Eren in the second episode of the anime, it means that Isayama already had a clear vision of what kind of story he wanted to tell way back then. Jiyuu no Tsubasa, the first season's ending. Another thing that was always impressive about Attack on Titan's anime was the opening and ending songs of every season. The ending song for the first season of the anime, Jiyuu no Tsubasa, or Wings of Freedom in English, has a very moving message that's actually connected to the latest episode of the anime. Wings of Freedom is a song about the scouts who carry this symbol on their backs. One of the lines I like the most from this song that I translated into English says, "I won't let them say they died in vain. not until the last arrow is shot. When we were checking the manga for deeper meaning to the lyrics, we found out that the title of chapter 132 of the manga is Wings of Freedom, the same as the name of the song. This is the chapter where Hanji Zoe, commander of the Scouts, dies while stalling the Wall Titans. Since the Wings of Freedom is the symbol of the Scouts, it's possible that the title of the song was taken from there. Or maybe Isayama titled chapter 132 Wings of Freedom because of the song. Either way, after listening to the song knowing this, it reminds me of Hanji's amazing fight. The lyrics of the song also contain a part where it's talking about birds breaking out of their shells to fly. At the end of chapter 139, Eren became a bird and wrapped his scarf around Mikasa. These lyrics are a clear indication of the importance of birds to the story since the very first season of the anime. The Minor Story from episode 25. In the Attack on Titan anime, important information to the story is shared in the middle of the episode as information that's currently available to the public. One of the most talked about is the Minor Story, shared in episode 25 of the first season. This is a story about a miner who dug a hole in an attempt to cross the wall underground to get inside of Wall Sina. After digging a hole for 20 years, the miner realized that there was a wall under him that he could not dig through. The miner told his friend at the bar about this, and the next day he went missing. So his friend told the garrison soldiers. The military police and garrison soldiers launched a huge search for the miner. His friend couldn't understand why the military police were so eager to search for one miner. In the end, the miner was never found, and his friend suddenly disappeared one day too. When this Minor Story appeared in the anime, it was way too long, and a lot of people didn't pause during episode 25 to read it. Now that the story is complete, it turns out that it was important foreshadowing for those who paid attention. We find out later that the wall was completely made up of titans. Eren controlled these titans with the power of the founder and triggered the rumbling. Because of this, I think that the wall the miner ran into when he was digging down alongside the walls was part of a titan's foot, and the miner and his friend were killed by the military police when they learned the secret of the wall. How the miner went missing was never told, and who the miner really was remains a mystery. It's surprising that such important foreshadowing for learning the secret of the walls was laid out in the currently available information part of the anime. Yuugure no Tori, the second season's ending. The ending for the second season of Attack on Titan's anime contained foreshadowing about the history of Ymir, the founding titan, and the Eldians. It begins with the scene where the founding titan Ymir is making a contract with the devil of the earth and obtaining the power of the titans. Later, it shows a scene where the king is feeding his 3 daughters a human corpse. This scene is completely consistent with what we learned from the manga in chapter 122. King Fritz is feeding Ymir's corpse to her 3 daughters, Maria, Rose, and Sina. The next scene shows Titans crossing the sea and eating people. This is probably from the Titan War. After that, we see Titans and people shown migrating towards Paradis Island. The final scene shows stone statues that are thought to represent the 9 Titans, with the founding Titan above all the others. This hinted at the existence of other intelligent Titans who had not appeared in the second season yet. It's surprising to think now that so many spoilers are given away in the endings of anime. Anime spoiling you in the endings is so common that, to be honest, I didn't even really look at these until I had finished the manga. So if you haven't, I think it would be very interesting to take another look at all the openings and endings for Attack on Titan. Falco's line in the final season. In the first episode of the final season of Attack on Titan, Falco says something that was not in the manga. Falco was bleeding from his head and very disoriented when he says, wasn't I flying around with swords just now? And he doesn't even remember who his friends are for a moment. Somehow, he had gained the memory of a soldier using 3D maneuver gear to fight Titans, something Falco should know nothing about at this point in the story. There were a lot of discussions about this part of the anime. Falco inherits one of the 9 Titans after this. He might have been looking at the memories of its past inheritors ahead of time, or maybe some random person's memories flowed to Falco through the path in the coordinate that connects all subjects of Ymir. But I think this was likely him seeing the memories of Ymir before he inherited the Jaw Titan. It's also possible that this comment from Falco will be related to an anime original ending. Falco's experience here is very similar to what the main character Eren went through in the first chapter of the manga, where he was also confused and wondering why Mikasa's hair was so long. Falco is essentially the protagonist of the younger generation. Plus, his Titan can become a bird, and we already talked about all the symbolism behind birds in Attack on Titan. It's also not unusual for things foreshadowed in the first episode to not be covered until the last episode. Falco's comment in the first episode of the final season might be related to something that's going to happen in the last episode of the final season. Armin narrating the anime. The anime of Attack on Titan is narrated by Inoue Marina, the voice actress of Armin in Japanese. Usually, animes are narrated by the main character, so the fact that Armin is the one doing the narrating was considered to be foreshadowing by fans. In the last chapter, Armin says he'll tell the world of all the stories they have seen. So Armin's narration in the first chapter, on that day, mankind remembered the horror of being ruled by them and the humiliation of being trapped in a birdcage, makes people think that the story from the first episode was future Armin telling people what happened in the past, after the last chapter, as we've mentioned in previous videos. But the real reason why Armin was chosen as the narrator was told to us by the director Araki in an interview. It turns out that it was not foreshadowing for the story. Director Araki said about Armin, when he first appeared, he was a weak character, but he gradually changed, and I had a feeling he was going to become someone special. I wanted to show the process of a genius being born through Armin, and when I told this to Isayama-sensei, he found it interesting. It's clear that the director really liked Armin's character. In response to this, Isayama-sensei replied, "I don't know how it will go in the manga, but I'm okay with it for the time being." So, it turns out that Armin being the narrator was something that was decided in the anime and later became a thing in the manga, not the other way around. So, Isayama-sensei might have made the last chapter in a way that makes it make sense with the anime, since the fact that Armin is the one narrating is something you could only ever understand after watching the anime. Alright, that's it for this one. One of the things that makes this anime so interesting is how it's presented in a different way than it is in the manga. And one of the best parts of the manga is how it ends. The way it ended actually left room for multiple interpretations. So it's quite possible that the ending of the anime will be different from the manga. If you saw any foreshadowing or have any predictions for the ending of the anime, please let me know them down in the comments. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you again in the next video.